Don Brown is a former U.S. Senate candidate, former Navy JAG officer, and a good friend of this program. He's an attorney, former federal prosecutor. Don, good morning.
Good morning to you, Steve. Good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you. Look, Anthony Fauci's legal troubles are piling up. Now, he may have a pardon from Joe Biden, but I know, for example, the state of Florida and other states are considering pursuing legal action against him from the state level, which to me means his pardon is meaningless, right?
His pardon is for federal crimes from 2014 until Joe Biden stepped out of office in January of 2025. Thank God he stepped out of office finally. But not for state crimes. And so he's been investigated in Louisiana, Florida, I think one other. And the key here, Steve, is going to be the financial flow. Where is the money? Who made what when? Remember this. Not only was Anthony Fauci the highest paid federal employee, $480,000 made more money than the president of the United States. But Steve, his pension is the highest known pension in American history from a U.S. government employee at $350,000. Steve, his pension is higher than the salary of the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. It's higher than the Speaker of the House, higher than the Secretary of State. He's making a ton of money. And the other thing that folks are forgetting is he's been able to use his position as a government employee to become inventor on patents and make royalties from those patents. And Steve, we don't know what those numbers are because the NIH hasn't given us the numbers. There was a federal act passed in '86 allowing him to dip his finger into patent royalties from money that he used with government research to invent these patents. And so the other question we got to look in my opinion, is not just what the damage caused by the experimental jabs, but also remdesivir, which was also an experimental drug, which had an up to 60% mortality rate in Africa before Fauci's own office, NIAID, pushed it on as COVID regimen in the United States. A lot of people died from that, Steve.
That's
right.
So
it's closing in, just like you say, brother. It
so
certainly is.
You said something there, and I've heard this before, and I've been confused about this. You work for the United States government. You're in some laboratory paid for by United States taxpayers. You come across something, an invention, a patent, whatever it is, and you get to keep that. That doesn't work that way at any Fortune 500 company in the world. If you work for a Fortune 500 company and you invent or create something, that is the intellectual property of that company because they paid the freight for research and development. Why is the American taxpayer getting, frankly, screwed?
It's a good question. It needs to change. It goes back to a federal act called the Transfer Technology Act of 1986. And under that act, if you and I are working and we were research types and geeks and we came up with this invention, what the government would own the patent, but we're entitled to royalties. And although there's a policy to cap the royalties, the NIH refuses to say how much Fauci has made in royalties. Judicial Watch and some other public interest law firms have tried to get it. What we know is that from an 11-year period from 2010 to 2021, 37 royalty payments were given to Fauci. Now, that is in addition to his $450,000 salary. In addition to whatever he makes off books, he's got a book deal that he signed with a $5 million advance with Viking in 2024. But they won't tell us the numbers that have been paid. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're taking your tax dollars, my tax dollars, using that to research and profiting from royalties from the patents. Fauci himself owns, for example, several AIDS-related patents. But we don't know how much money this guy squirreled away. He's got these millions and millions of dollars, yet he somehow needs a legal defense fund, which is another issue in and of itself. But really, it comes back to the question that I pointed out earlier. Where is the money? Follow the money trail. And I suspect you'll find some pretty dirty fingerprints all over it, Steve.
So, here's the simple question for you, sir. Based on everything you know, the diaries, the cell phone, the interactions, the emails, everything that's piled up on Anthony Fauci, it's like a log jam in the river in April, right? It's about to burst. Is he a criminal?
Yes, I think he's committed a very deadly fraud against the people of the United States, against the people in my home state of North Carolina. He comes out and he says, safe and effective with these COVID jabs, knowing full well they're under an emergency use authorization. Now the FDA has conceded there are myocarditis issues. People are dropping dead. Young people are just dropping out. Remdesivir took out 2 of my friends. And he's pushed these things. And, there are state laws which require truth in advertising in just about every state in the country, here in North Carolina, and other states as well. I'm hoping these Republican attorneys general in Louisiana and Florida will get to the bottom of it. I've called upon every Republican attorney general to initiate investigations in their states. If we ever get a Republican attorney general in North Carolina, I hope that'll be the case here as well. But I think he's got blood on his hands and a lot of money in his pocket. And I think he's going to need to pay, and probably sooner than later, we hope.
One last question. I got 30 seconds, sir. It looks like Roy Cooper has a pretty good lead over Michael Whatley in the race to be the next senator from the state of North Carolina. That would be a loss for the Republicans. Can Michael Whatley win this race? 20 seconds to you.
Sure he can. We got 70 days. If you expose Cooper's record, you see Cooper is the most radical governor in North Carolina history. He trashed the Constitution during COVID. He vetoed the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. In other words, he thinks it's okay to kill babies born of botched abortions. He's got a disastrous record with law enforcement. If Michael can expose Roy's record, he can take him out. That's going to be Michael's challenge in the next 70 days. I was out speaking for him last night, and we'll continue to do so. Everything we can do.
Don Brown, always a good conversation, sir. Thank you for being here early. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Steve. Hope to see you soon.
You're watching Daybreak. We'll be right back.